Welcome to Whiskey is a Journey. My name is Peter Faciano, and today is my 2-year channel anniversary. 250 videos, just about 7,500 subscribers, and I decided for today, for this kind of special occasion, I am going to revisit the very first 4 whiskeys that I decided to drink with my brother-in-law and sister to kick off or start my whiskey journey. Now, I do have to backtrack here a little bit because even though this is my 2-year channel anniversary, it's not my 2-year anniversary of drinking bourbons or scotches or whiskeys or being whiskey promiscuous. It was January 14th of 2022 that I went over to my sister and brother-in-law's house and decided, let's go ahead and jump on keto and get on this keto diet. And instead of drinking beer, we're gonna start drinking whiskey. And my brother-in-law was furious. He's like, why are you gonna do this to me? I hate this stuff. It smells like acetone and it tastes like gasoline. But being a little bit trepidatious as well, I decided, let's just do it. Let's see how it goes. Let's see where this journey takes us. And I started out with 4 bottles, and these are the 4 bottles that I'm going to do today that are going to be sips or skips. I'm going to revisit these bottles that I brought over to their house January 14th of 2022. And before I begin, I want to thank everybody that has clicked on one of my videos, subscribed to the channel, participated in any of my giveaways, which I have a port flight giveaway happening at the end of the video. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and stick around until the very end. For everybody that has shared these videos or commented, I really appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and jump into this 4-bottle flight and see where I stand with each of these bottles individually. So bottle number 1, I picked this up at a Bevmo. I looked online before I went on there and looked for beginner scotches and beginner bourbons, and Monkey Shoulder came up as far as a introductory scotch to try. So we brought that over. I think this was the very first one that we tried. And if I do recall, we put it in a tumbler glass with a freezer ice cube, those little ice cubes that the freezers make that are a little bit half moon shaped. We threw less than, I think, a half an ounce of whiskey in the tumbler, smelled it, burnt our nose, and tasted it. And just like my brother-in-law said, it tasted like gasoline. I revisited this once before, and my opinion of it has changed. It's very malty and it's very sweet. I get a little bit, I mean, I'm talking a very, very small amount of either char or peat. Good amounts of vanilla. And I would say that the fruit note that I'm getting out of here, lighter fruit, maybe a peach. And along with a slight amount of peat, I'm also maybe saying that there's a little bit of citrus and pineapple in this as well. And it was funny, we were looking online for reviews to see what notes people were getting on there. And I also think that there was an app on my phone at the time called, I think it was Distiller or Distillers. And we were looking at reviews and we were looking at the notes that people were given. And we were all smelling this going, these people are insane. There's no way that they're picking up on these notes. So let's go ahead and get this thing on the palate. Yeah, this is just a very easy drinking, what is it, 43% ABV. I believe it's a blended malt Scotch whiskey. And there's really nothing offensive about this. I do remember drinking this for the very first time and not having a horrible reaction to it, but again, wondering why people drink this stuff. Even though it's 43% ABV, it hit us as pretty hard, and I think our bodies wanted to reject it. And you know, I can't blame my brother-in-law again for saying that. So everything that I'm getting on the nose is also coming through on the palate. I think this is a very soft drinking, mellow, well-rounded blended scotch. I've used this in a couple of cocktails before. I've reached for it on different occasions, and in the grand scheme of things, based on the price that I paid at the time, this is 30 bucks. I don't know what it is right now, but when this bottle is gone, is it going to be a sip or a skip? I am going to say Monkey Shoulder for me is going to be a sip. Once this is finished, I will definitely replace the bottle. I agree with most of the reviews out there. I do think this is a very nice, well-rounded, not very harsh beginner scotch. So let's go ahead and move on to bottle number 2. Okay, next up is a Japanese whiskey, Kisoyama. Kisoyama says that it is a product of Japan. And just like the Monkey Shoulder, I picked this up also at Bevmo. And for no other reason other than being whiskey promiscuous, I decided to pick this up. I think it was a pretty expensive bottle of the 4. I think this was the most expensive. It's about $50. And I haven't really done a whole lot of research on this, but I do believe this might be just a brand that Bevmo contracts through. I know some of the big box stores have their individual brand that they actually put their own labels on, and this might be, I could be completely wrong, but this might be one of those Japanese whiskeys that they put their label on that are contracted through Bevmo. Don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. I did not look on any sort of lists. I just decided to pick this up because I wanted to have a variety of whiskeys to try on that first night. My intention was just to bring over a bourbon and a scotch, and I decided, what the heck, let's go ahead and also get an Irish and a Japanese. This is very faint on the nose. I don't think there's much to it at all. And if I do recall, when we sipped this for the very first time, it was one of the most mild of the 4 that we had. Smells a little bit citrus, a little bit light. Pick up a mild amount of malt. And other than that, it's just pretty plain. So let's go ahead and get it on the palate. Yeah, not really much to this at all. It does taste a little bit thin, even though this is coming in at, well, it's 40% ABV. And even though that it says this is a Japanese whiskey or product of Japan, what I've learned since picking this bottle up, there are some, not shady stuff, but there's some weird things that are happening with Japanese whiskeys. And the product of Japan doesn't necessarily mean that this is produced in Japan. This could be a blend of Scotch and some Japanese whiskey. If and when I eventually do a full-on review, I'll probably dive in and actually get some information. But as of right now, all of the notes that were there on the nose do come through on the palate. It's very nondescript. It's very light. It's crisp. It's refreshing. It's nothing that I would say is off-putting. But as far as whether it's a sip or a skip, this is going to be a skip. I don't think I would purchase another Kisoyama from any place. Are you familiar with Kisoyama? Is anybody out there that watches the channel? Do you know anything about this? If you do, let me know in the comments down below. All right, moving on to glass number 3, bottle number 3. Next one's gonna be an Irish. This is the Glendalough. And just like the Japanese whiskey, I had no intention of purchasing this, but I decided that right at the very end, might as well just have a variety of whiskeys to kind of take a look at. And instead of just picking up like the traditional Jameson and bringing it over, I thought, the label looked kind of cool, weird kind of name, double barrel Irish whiskey. And it's looking like this is coming in at 42% ABV. Decided to bring this over also and see what the Irish had to offer. Let's get this thing on the nose. I hate the way this smells now. I think this did not always smell like this. What I get on the nose is if you were to plant your face directly in a whole bunch of junk mail that has paper plus that waxy coated paper, if you were to smell that, it comes across as a little bit harsh, maybe a little acetone, a little acidy. That's what I get. We actually have gone through an entire bottle of this, and this is the second bottle. My brother-in-law absolutely loved this, had it over ice, actually kind of fell in love with Irish whiskey by drinking this bottle. Initially, I think I remember liking it, but again, all of the whiskeys that we had on that night came across as pretty harsh, pretty alcohol-y, very proofy, and we really struggled to get any kind of notes out of it. And it was only about until a couple of months into our whiskey tasting that I decided, you know what? Now that we're starting to pick out a little bit of these nuances in these whiskeys, let's go ahead and I'm going to start a YouTube channel and just start documenting what I actually got from these. In my very first video that I ever shot, I took a couple of American single malts, drove down to my buddy Robert's house and did a tasting with American single malts up against the Glenlivet 12. My entire premise of the channel was going to be tastings and comparisons, and as it turned out, it turned into something completely different. All right, all I'm getting is that acetone, acidity, plastic, you know, paper, magazine kind of smell. Let's get this thing on the palate. Comes across as pretty light, but all of those notes that I got on the nose are also transferring to the palate. It's a very astringent, acetone, alcohol forward whiskey that I am not enjoying at all. So as far as a sip or a skip, even though my original thought was an enjoyable one, this has definitely turned the page and has moved to a skip. I know Glendalough has done a couple of releases. This is the only one that I have ever purchased, and I think it's the only one that I will ever purchase. Let me know in the comments down below if you are familiar with this brand, and if so, am I wrong? Should I actually be going out and looking for something that will redeem this one? So let's move on to the fourth and final bottle we had during our first night of whiskey drinking, which is going to be the Four Roses Single Barrel. This was definitely on a bunch of reviews and whiskey tube channels that said, for the money, this is going to be a very good beginner bourbon to get. I looked at the label. I think I recognized the name Four Roses even before walking into the store, and I had an idea that this is what I was going to get. This was the last glass that we had for the night. I think we were all anticipating the sweetness of a bourbon, and when we first smelled it, again, everything that came out of the glass was alcohol forward and astringent. And by this point in the night, we were questioning ourselves very much on whether we were going to continue to pursue this journey or not. Now, I've done Four Roses before, a couple of versions of it, and this comes across as very vanilla, very caramel, a little bit floral. And if I was pressed, I might be able to find a little bit of brown sugar in here. And if I'm not mistaken, the single barrel is coming in at 50% ABV. Four Roses with me has been a roller coaster. After we finished drinking the first four, I went back to the bottle. This is actually my second bottle as well. My assistant principal went on a boys fishing trip or a camping trip, and I gave him one of the bottles and I just told him to keep it, and then I replaced it with this one. I was drinking this with Coke. I was drinking this on ice. I had a couple of sips with it, neat. I threw some water in it, and I've gone through, like I had mentioned, a roller coaster. I liked it a lot. I hated it. I liked it, then it was okay, and I've gotten to the point now where it's hit or miss with me. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. But on the nose, I really do like the way that it smells. That floral note is a little bit unique to me on the nose. With a bourbon, I don't get floral notes with bourbons very often, but for some reason, Four Roses comes across to me as floral. I do get a little bit of rye notes along with that. I get some pine and dill, maybe some green tea notes. Let's get this thing on the palate and see what comes through. Now, I must say, I really do like the 50% ABV. The longer I have gone through my journey, I've realized that my tolerance for ABV at the very beginning was very, very low. And I think a lot of beginner drinkers don't realize that there is an ABV wall that you need to be able to push through in order to start to tolerate alcohol that's basically trying to kill your body. I've gone through an awkward stage where I'm not quite ready to get that alcohol in the mouth, and it hits the back of the throat and you end up coughing and your throat just lights up with this heat and it just ruins the drinking experience. That hasn't happened to me in quite a while, and as I've gone through this, I started to tolerate a little bit more and more of ABVs, and now I'm starting to lean towards things that are 50% or higher. My brother-in-law has lagged behind in his tolerance for ABV or his affinity for high proof. I think he tends to be a little bit more towards the lighter Irish side of things, and I have gone through this explosion of deep, dark, really high ABV or high proof whiskeys, whether it's Scotch or bourbon. I just tend to gravitate towards the higher proofs. If you were looking for like a quintessential type bourbon, with the exception of the floral note, I think Four Roses is right there. Now, as far as a sip or a skip, this individual single barrel, even though that it was $44.99 when I purchased it, and if you don't know, I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, and because I've had like the Four Roses single barrel select, and I've had some of their single barrel selects, this individual bottle is going to be a skip for me. Now, that's not saying that it is a bad bottle. If you like Four Roses and you like bourbon and you're looking to get into it, I think this is definitely going to be one of those bottles that you can start out with. You're not going to be disappointed, but the whole premise of my sip it or skip it episodes are based on my personal preferences and having a YouTube channel. Will I actually replace this bottle when it's gone, knowing that Four Roses has other offerings out there that I like more? And again, nothing wrong with it, but this is going to be a skip for me. So where are you at with Four Roses? Have you picked up on dill or floral notes in their single barrels? Not their single barrel selects with all their different recipes, but just their individual single barrel. And I think they have one individual recipe that they release for their single barrels. I'd be interested to hear from you in the comments down below about all four of these. Are they sips or skips for you? Are you familiar with them? Are you just getting into bourbon? Does anything that I've said in this video resonate with you? Kind of give me an idea of where you're at in your journey. How long have you been drinking whiskeys? Are you whiskey promiscuous like I am? Or are you sticking with just Scotch, just bourbon? I'd be interested to hear from you where you guys are at. Now, let's go ahead and get on to the winner of my port flight. I actually have my phone in the other room. Let me go ahead and grab that and get this winner announced. All right, so I have, I think maybe 3 or 4 people. Like I mentioned at the very start of that port flight, I wasn't sure how popular it would be, if people were actually interested in the port finish whiskeys or not, especially the whiskeys that I had in the flight. But I've got Carlos, John MLP, Mike, and Whiskey and Wine Trails. And then I also have Elvino Martin. Just like the other videos, I have everything just randomized on the wheel. They get 1 entry for every $5 that they donated, and there's nothing more to do or say other than to spin the wheel and see who the winner is. All right, I didn't think it was ever going to stop. So, Carlos Garcia, congratulations, buddy. You can send me all your information over the contacts that we had previous, whether it was through text message or email. It's totally up to you, but congratulations, Carlos. And thank you very much to everybody else that contributed to this flight. I appreciate the support. And going forward, I think I might be doing 1 giveaway a month, kind of like this, because I don't really do, well, I don't do live streams at all. If I have some interesting flights within the month that I think people might be interested in, I'll go ahead and throw that out there as a giveaway. Going forward, now that I have gone through the entire category of whiskeys that I have in my collection, I think I've decided to start doing Whiskey Promiscuous Mondays and start jumping around with all the different individual whiskeys that I have in my collection instead of doing a specific series. I'm going to start out the month of May with Jack Daniel's Rye, the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Barrel Proof Rye, and then on the 13th I'm going to do a Westward Single Malt Cask Strength, and then on the 27th, which is Memorial Day, I can't think of a better bottle to do other than Horse Soldier. So if you are interested in any of my content and you're not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel. Just go ahead and click on that little button right down there. If you like this video or any of my other videos, do me a favor and like it, share it with somebody that is in the whiskey world that might get enjoyment out of it. And while you're at it, turn on that bell notification because I produce videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Congratulations, Carlos, and thank you everybody that has liked, subscribed, shared, done anything that YouTubers ask you to normally do for their channel. If you've clicked on the video and you've watched it, thank you. If you have participated in any of my giveaways, thank you. I really appreciate the support. And until Friday, which is going to be a First Friday flight fight, is going to be Kilchoman. So, just like always, wherever you are at in your journey, I hope you are enjoying it. And until the next time, we'll talk to you later. Bye, everybody.